What up? Hello, Hacked.
What up? We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
We're
What's up,
doing
cheat?
it.
No heads up. It's got to be a surprise, bruh. We're back. It's the show.
Hey, you made it, didn't you?
You are here. This is our fault. I'm sorry. We're here. We're here to talk about dragons, and very excited for the launch. And we can get Risen to not be so negative about the expansion and everything that Ian is doing in his life.
We'll see, man. Dude, your
But
dragon's looking dope.
Yeah, you like that? I got this.
I do like that, man.
I got this fucking dagger out of my dinar and did my Mog around it. He's looking real fucking kitted.
The armor actually looks good.
Yeah, I was able to
like
take
your coloration and shit.
Yeah, I was able to take the like shoulders and the shaman shoulders and the belt for, I think there's a Legion belt, and kind of match it with like the jewelry options that the dragons have. So and then I've got a dong towel because I don't need the dragon dong just hanging out. We gotta stay modest.
Only on the backside though.
Yeah, the backside's open. You can get it from underneath there. You just get a nice back view.
Good old dragon dong.
But yeah, man, we're back. Gonna try to do this a little bit more regularly, which was the intention, and then it was kind of the end of the expansion, so it gets tough, to
we hit a lull.
Yeah, it gets tough just doing content for when no one really wants to play, and the big content
shit to talk about.
Yeah, it's easier to just steal from the big content creators who are already making the videos, and then like, well, we don't need to talk about that. We can just watch, Preach or Max do their thing. So, but we're here. So to kick it off, I guess let's talk a little bit about just a Shadowlands recap. Kind of your thoughts on how Shadowlands went, and things you liked, things you didn't like.
Probably the biggest saving grace for Shadowlands for me has been Mythic Plus, and just me getting into it competitively.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on it are a little biased because of that. It's more positive than it probably should be.
Yeah.
But I had a good time. It had its ups and downs, but after 9.15, especially with everything being unlocked, which should have happened sooner, but it did happen sooner than the last two expansions getting their shit fixed up. So
yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like I didn't really get into high-end Mythic Plus until this past season with you guys, and I think that kind of changed my outlook on the game, to be honest, because doing the 15s, just to max out your vault or whatever, just never was really that appealing, because we were only doing heroic, and you don't really need that gear to do heroic, and it was just kind of like this self-defeating cycle of like not wanting to interact with the content on a higher level because you don't really need to. But then watching a bunch of the high-end Mythic Plusers, and then you guys wanting to take a crack at kind of seeing how far we could push, and we did really well. I mean, I finished at like
out of it.
2600, I think, is what I finished at, and 2632 on my rogue. So like for our first season as like an organized group, I think that was awesome, and kind of reopened my eyes to Mythic Plus is the best piece of content in the game currently.
Definitely. And I think rating is huge. Like nothing beats just being in Discord with your buddies killing bosses.
Yeah.
I think we had a lot of struggle with that just from Sepulcher and the way the raid went. Not just for us, but for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that took away and just added more frustration to it, to where it's like, yeah, Mythic Plus is the clear winner.
Yeah.
But I think a big thing that like really pumped me up is when we actually went to Raider.io to look at the breakdowns. It's like we finished in the top like 1.5%.
Yeah.
Which was fucking nutty,
Yeah, I think it ended up being like top
awesome.
20,000.
Yeah,
which,
I'm super proud of it.
yeah, sounds like a lot of people and is a lot of people. But then when you look at a percentage of the population, like, that's awesome. Like, I'm all about that for sure.
Yeah.
So other than that, though, I think that was the one thing, because like I didn't play much season 2 and season 3, that I was really down on WoW for a while, and just the stuff that was going on, behind the scenes with them was super frustrating to see. And then came back for season 4, like I said, and we did the Mythic Plus thing that kind of like re-energized me. But I am glad a lot of stuff from this expansion is not carrying over. Covenants and the legendary acquisition and how you have to craft them and being super alt unfriendly, all of that stuff is going away, which I'm very happy about. And I think this new era of WoW, as it's been called by a few different people, Blizzard included, I think is really positive, and I'm pretty excited for what they have to come in this season 1 of Dragonflight.
Yeah, me too, man. Even all that said, I wouldn't be opposed to, some things getting added for like strictly one season going forward.
Yeah.
Because they've done things like that well. But I'm just hope they keep it basic, keep it simple, and that way we get to have what we're expecting going into Dragonflight here.
Yeah, so I guess
I have huge expectations for just being able to play. Like, I can hop on and I can just fucking play. I don't have to do chores. I don't have to do this and that before I get to play. I get to just play.
So with that said, I guess what are you, I guess, hopeful for, concerned about it, just with the general X-Pack? We can get into the specifics of the different activities, but just in general, as taking like a bird's eye view out of the expansion, what are you kind of looking most forward to, and what are you most concerned about?
Yeah, so a big thing for me, for like just excitement and what I'm looking forward to, is just being able to play alts. Like, I've always been huge on a big reason that it happens to me is because I like to help people. So, I'll look into what a class is doing, and then I'm like, oh shit, this is actually kind of cool, and I want to fuck with this a little bit. Shadowlands was very restrictive on that, and there's a couple times I just rammed right through it anyway because I really wanted to do it, but sometimes it just hard stopped me from doing that. And Dragonflight lifting those barriers is a huge thing that I'm excited for.
Yeah,
just being able to look into a class like, oh dude, this is playing really fun right now and I want to give it a shot, and just being able to do that at a decently competitive level with the only barrier being gear.
Yep.
Which, and honestly, it's not a huge amount that I'm concerned about. There's big tuning and design things with some classes, but everything is at least 90% complete. And I was downing on it at first, but when you actually get in there and play these things that people are outcrying about, that it's like, oh, the world's ending. It's not. It's playable. It's fun. It is what it is. So there's not huge concerns coming from me yet.
Yeah, I think the biggest example of that would be Shadow Priest, right? Like Shadow Priest there's been an outcry.
Yeah, and I could tell you straight up, Shadow Priest is fun as fuck unless you play the min-max, best build, whatever. Yeah, the way that's designed, that you're able to do that, is stupid. But my remedy to that is, if I play Shadow Priest, I'm just not playing that fucking build because it's not fun.
Right.
And I'll be 5% worse, but I'll be better at it, so it's just going to be better anyway.
Yeah, right. So. I kind of echo a lot of the stuff that you said. I'm excited that we're getting back to just the core activities as the way you interact with your characters, right? You get gear through Raid, Mythic Plus, and some world stuff, but that's where all your power is coming from. You level up, you put your talent points in, and then you're good to go. You just kind of play. So I think that's super positive. I think what that is going to cause in terms of like my concern is for people who have only played basically since Legion and are used to this style, call it, of WoW that we're now ending, are going to probably think that the game is missing something, and that they're going to say that there's a content drought, or, you know, that was the big thing with WoD, right? Like, you know, all this cut content and there was nothing to do and blah, 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 even though the raids were awesome. And, but it largely, yeah, I get that statement. So I do worry a little bit with, player perception to start off the expansion, and like, what are you going to do, you know, once you're max level and you're now just grinding Mythic Plus and waiting for your raid nights? Like, I'm hoping that dragon riding, which if you haven't played the beta, excuse me, dragon riding is fucking amazing. I'm not so one for like non-player power stuff generally. I don't interact with that part of the game very often, but dragon riding is amazing. Like, yeah, I want legit fun. I want old world races added. I want like I want them to build on dragon riding. Like, it is just cool to traverse the world on your dragon mount. And my big concern though is like, I hope that there's enough stuff to do in the world for people who aren't pushing high-end Mythic Plus and who don't traditionally play alts, because alts are kind of the like time sink extended playtime content type thing is going to be, okay, well, because it's so easy to just level and start gearing, you just play other characters when you run out of stuff to do on your main. And to what Spec and Cheat are saying, yeah, I mean, it's a huge just shift in perception and expectation, I think, for the player base that they're going to have to deal with. And I do have a little concern on like the season to season with no system to build on. Like, what is the content going to look like from each season that they add? You know, a new zone. Right. Okay.
I think I can see the argument there for like maybe going season to season, but my only problem with the argument for like, you know, especially season 1 launch of the expansion is that there's nothing that's, the systems didn't add things that people wanted to do outside of like high-end competitive stuff, which if you were doing it for high-end competitive stuff, you weren't doing it because that part was fun. You were doing it because you wanted to be competitive and get into that content. So really, like, we're not losing anything there.
Yeah.
But I think even just the casual player isn't losing anything. There's, like we said, dragon riding. There's the exploration. I'm sure there's going to be achievements, mounts, pets, none of which have been ever tied to like those systems.
Right.
And honestly, like, the systems grind was always the worst thing for people to do.
Right.
You know, on a day-to-day.
I'm with you.
Where, like, nobody, either they did it and they didn't enjoy it, or they just didn't do it. So I don't think we're losing anything in that gameplay loop.
Yeah.
I think we're only gaining things because the things that are there, you either want to do them or you don't, and there's no reason you have to.
Hey, what up, Nyrix?
Yeah, I don't think we're losing much, at least for season 1. I do think your point about like, oh, well, what happened season 2, 3? Like, what are we getting outside of, you know, the content as far as like rating or Mythic Plus goes? So I think that definitely is something big. But you could also figure maybe it'll be an extra area or an island with some kind of currency for catch-up gear like there always is. And I don't think those have ever really been looked down upon very hard.
What my hope is that not having to have a system that they need to worry about us interacting with and pushing that forward is we get some better story and some more in-depth world building, which definitely. I think when people talk about what was good about, you know, Wrath and BC and and some of those older expansions in like era 1 of WoW and what they loved, and they talk about, you know, the raids and the dungeons, and like I think dungeons and raiding are way better now than they were back then. So like
definitely.
when people talk about it, what do they actually mean? Like what's the difference between now and then? And I think a lot of it was just like the world building was a lot better, the stories and the lore. I'm not one that really cares about it so much, but like going into,
it still sets the tone for everything. It sets the atmosphere.
It makes
so
me want to
even for us
interact.
that aren't like, yeah, I mean, even when we're not going deep into the lore, it still sets a mood for whatever part of the game we are playing.
And I think season 1 of Shadowlands with Nathria, they did a good job, a better job than they had in the past of like setting up Denathrius and the reason why we're going into Castle Nathria. And then I felt like with Sepulchre and Sanctum, it was just like Sylve bad, kill, Jailer bad, kill.
Right.
Like, and there was not a whole lot of world building. And obviously we won't know for sure, but like I think part of that is that, you know, there's a lot of development time needed to make sure these systems are relevant and, you know, something that we interact with. So I'm with you.
Quick,
I think it's good.
I think a big thing with like the world building and building up like hype for a new boss in a raid and like the story stuff, we don't ever like actually run into Sylvanas or the Jailer in, you know, going forward through these stories. We run into Sire like many times.
Yep.
And like we try to fuck him up and he beats our ass, and like it's a build up. Same thing was like even in Legion, you know, we ran into Helia constantly, like all throughout the experience. So it's like, and Xavius, we ran into Xavius a couple of times. It's like just actually seeing the person, beast, whatever, that's like gonna be the end boss. I think the build-up needs that, like they need to be introduced more throughout the story.
When I
so
think
I think that's like a big thing that we lacked going through like Sanctum and
well, and I think something that they're doing that's cool with Dragonflight is that the Mythic Plus affix, the seasonal affix, is tied to the raid boss. Like we're getting whatever it's called, Thundering, because it's coming from Razageth being, you know, unleashed again into the world.
That's always been the case, though.
Yeah, but like
since they introduced seasonal stuff, it's always had like some kind of flavor tie-in to the season.
I guess I don't remember it ever being like in a cutscene, like kind of shown, like, you know, like we had Prideful like in season 1, and it's clearly tied to like, you know, Nathria and the Venthyr. But like they never really showed like Denathrius sending prideful mobs out into the world. Like, you know, you see Razageth in the cutscene like break out of the vault, and like now the world is like covered in thunder, and like you actually interact with that in the quest. I think that's just like, it's just like a minor little like tidbit thing that I think is more engaging. So
I think so as well.
I'm excited. I trying to like head off some of those arguments that I see coming, and like it's actually not as bad as you guys think it is. I think we'll have plenty to do.
Going back to, you know, just like the season to season thing and like what might be added, a lot of people are just shitting all over the, you know, like a lot of people don't believe that dungeons are going to be added. I don't know that I agree with that, you know, because I think that the opportunity is there now that hasn't been. And
yeah,
you know, especially the way Ian said, like, you know, this is what pushed us away from adding dungeons, because the last time we saw dungeons added outside of like the mega dungeon stuff was Legion, and you know, that's what made them shy away from that. You know, just being able to add something to a pool and nobody wants to run it because it's new and they know everything else for like 2 years already. So that's not going to be like a barrier for them anymore. So I do expect to see at least a dungeon or two added.
I agree fully. I would probably say season 3 or season 4, but yeah, I fully expect that
season 2, 3, and 4. I mean, shit.
You think 2?
I expect something. Maybe not 2, because we'll get like the fresh dungeon.
Right, because we'll get the other 4 plus the 4 olds. So then I think 3 or 4, most likely 3.
Yeah, we need something tied to each raid, like, because back in the day, that's a big thing that, like, you know, when in Wrath, like ICC came out and we got Halls of Reflection and Pit of
Sauron.
Sauron,
Yeah.
and then whatever the other one was.
And then Legion, we got Cathedral, which was tied to.
Yeah, but then that was like Mythic Plus was in, and it was like just so negative, and Seed of the Triumvirate.
Yep.
You know, also in Legion, so they added 2, and it was kind of shit on, and you know, I think that pushed them away from doing it. But it's like even then, I don't think people think there's like bigger reasons why we don't see new dungeons added. Like they think it's a bigger investment than it actually is for Blizzard to do that.
Right.
So I expect that we'll see something at least.
I hope so.
Forge of Souls. Yeah.
Forge. That's right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I loved all of those dungeons. Those are badass dungeons.
I guess to get into some of the more specific stuff for Dragonflight, for the new raid, what are you hopeful for? What are the raid expectations? I mean, this can be specific to the guild as well.
Yeah, I put out a thing, you know, a post talking about it. I haven't fully updated our actual like document yet, but I do plan to just add very specific, you know, be a little bit more specific on expectations for like our raider rank going forward. I think we're gonna tighten down on it and just make sure that we plow through the raid and get that shit done.
Yeah,
because I mean, we used to be a little bit more harsh on our expectations before too, and I think people were kind of just tired of Shadowlands. I was kind of tired of Shadowlands. I just wanted to play with my friends, you know. So I think we laxed up over the course of the expansion, kind of out of maybe carelessness for getting that shit done.
Yeah.
But I think we definitely want to bring it back to, you know, at least trying to compete for a decent AOTC timing and all of that.
Yeah, I think when I had first started raiding with you guys, like we cleared Nathria pretty quickly from what I remember.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my biggest goal, I think, and something that I lost along the way was, okay, we're killing this boss. Oh, fucking thank God we finally killed this fucking boss. Rather than, you know, like, fuck yeah, we just killed this fucking boss. Like, right. I lost that excitement, and, you know, we really need to get back to that just to, you know, curb the frustrations and get back to the excitement of actually accomplishing it.
Right.
Rather than it being like the
relief
of we checked it off our fucking chore list. Like,
yep.
Okay, this is fucking done.
Yeah.
Just get back to the excitement of it.
Yeah. I think that, you know, that's what everybody wants to do, right? Kill bosses, get loot with your friends. And so yeah, I'm excited. I think what I think will make things a lot better too is, you know, finally, hopefully later this expansion, like full integration of cross-faction guilds so everybody can play what they want if they want to switch to Horde, because we do have a few people I think that want to play Horde. But yeah, I'm excited. I think this raid will be, well, let me back up. I think part of the other piece of frustration with Sepulchre was the tuning was
definitely
way more difficult than they've had for Heroic in the past. And I think people weren't ready for that, especially if they don't follow like the Race to World First stuff and see like how tightly tuned like even like Heroic Anduin was for some of those top guilds.
Right. Yes and no, because like the tuning was big, but that's not even where frustration came from. It's, you know, it was a very binary pass fail. Like every boss had, you know, hey, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you die.
Yep.
So we need to be doing like X, Y, and Z wasn't that hard to do, and we just need to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that is going to be a huge expectation going into, you know, might rating. It's just, we have to do these mechanics. It's like
they're not optional.
That's a huge expectation, is just execution of mechanics.
Yeah.
Because I'm not worried about tuning. I'm not worried as much about numbers. I'm worried about, like, got to do these mechanics. We can't die, you know.
Yeah, and I think watching some of the raid testing for this raid and just reading through, I think this raid will be it's a season 1 raid, right? So it's not going to be crazy. So I think we'll have a lot more success getting through it. I'm excited for Hall of Fame to clear pretty quickly so that I can try to pug some Mythic, since our server doesn't have like really any Mythic guilds. But I do want to dip my toe back into that specifically to try to get some extra vault slots and gear to help facilitate pushing Mythic Plus, because that's still going to be my goal.
I mean, kind of same. Like, I'm still probably not gonna do much of that, but I was on beta for some of the Mythic raid testing weekends, and it was a lot of fun. It hit an itch that I haven't felt in a while. It's like, okay, this is fun. There's a lot going on, and just hanging out with some big boys too was pretty cool.
Yeah, you had said you got to play with some of the like content creators and more popular WoW streamers who are out there.
Yeah, because I was playing with Nascent or whatever.
Yeah, nice.
Playing with like Kalamazoo and Trail and shit. It's pretty cool.
Bay will be jealous.
You know, actually seeing the Mythic changes and Mythic mechanics, it's like, okay, this is rough. Like, this is cool. It definitely hit an itch.
Yeah.
So I might dabble if I get a chance, but I'm not really looking for it.
Let's dabble. Cheats got pizza. Hell yeah. So
pizza.
Yeah, I think we'll have a lot more success in myth or in heroic, and I'm excited to see people get into some new roles that they haven't in the past. And you know, obviously with the evoker being added, we haven't had a new class in the game in a while since Legion. So I think that's bringing some excitement and, you know, some new raid comps and people switching things up. So I think raiding will be a lot of fun to get back into, especially it did get a little stagnant at the end of Shadowlands.
I'm happy for like a short raid coming in. I think it's 8 bosses.
Yeah.
So that'll be nice.
Yep. Yeah, not the what was Sepulchre? 12? 13?
11,
It was 11.
It was 11, I think. Yeah, because Anduin was 8. Then we had Rygelon Lords, Chile.
Oh, what am I looking at? Raids, Shadowlands. 4, 5. Yeah, 11. Holy shit, that's a big raid.
Yeah.
With some massive stops, obviously. Halandris was tough. Anduin was tough. Still had to then get through Lords of Dread and Rygelon and then Jailer.
Fuck Lords of Dread, man. I just hated that boss.
Yeah.
Terrible boss. Terrible.
I didn't hate it.
I was playing a caster, man.
Yeah.
Playing caster on that fight is just garbage.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a good transition into kind of Mythic Plus, and same kind of questions. What are you excited for? What are you looking for them to improve, or what are you worried about? But more specifically, like, it seems like melee comps are going to be extremely popular going into Mythic Plus, and even in Raid. It seems like melee's in a much better spot than ranged, which I think is a big shift from
mostly tuning, though.
Do you think so? Yeah, Among Us without add-ons was rough cheat. You think that's just tuning? That the melee class is just tuned better at the moment?
Yeah, especially for Mythic Plus specifically.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, because like some of the biggest, best classes that we're seeing right now, they just happen to all be melee. You know, it's like everybody's hot on Feral and Windwalker and the DK specs, Unholy specifically, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, I think just the best classes happen to be melee right now.
Demon Hunter's in an excellent spot, even or even post nerf. So you think people just, and I think what that's doing is making Evoker, and like Wrestle Druid is just tuned really well right now, but specifically with Evoker, like these meatball comps with Preservation and 3 melee just seem very, very strong in Mythic Plus at the moment.
And it's just really easy to heal them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know you're hitting that Dream Breath easy.
Yep, right. You're hitting that Dream Breath. Your Emerald Blossom is gonna hit everybody. You don't have to worry about the range issue at that evokers have compared to the other healers, because you just basically get to stand in melee. Yeah, meatball comps cheat. That's what we're calling the full melee group. It's just a meatball comp. I think you could play Holy Pally with it too and just be full, truly meatball comp.
Yeah, but the only thing that too is like there's the Thundering Affix, so full melee comps makes it hard to like really pump that to its full potential.
Yeah,
Be accidentally clearing all in melee. So I think it's like a double-edged sword on what we'll see develop for the meta.
yeah, most likely we'll still have like a range, just like we have in the past, a Warlock or Frost Mage or something like that. Just Frost actually looks really strong right now.
I think Affliction is still looking pretty buff, right?
Yeah, I hope hey, what's up, Bay? I hope with the new talent system, it makes it easier for them to tune smaller knobs, because they have all these different nodes that they can tune individually now, and they don't have to make these kind of sweeping changes, even though we have seen some pretty big tuning passes that they've done, but I think that's just, pre-expansion type stuff. So the like ability for them to more fine tune is good, I think. You want to show me a small knob cheat? Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you in that boat. I got you. Affliction looking good in pre-patch and raid because of one specific talent and the boss affix that spawns a shitload of little ads. Interesting. So we'll see. I think we'll probably see the similar crew. Windwalker for sure. Feral would be a new addition to like meta comps, and then Preservation obviously being new, but I think it'll be a lot of Resto Druid and a lot of Preservation. And then for tanks,
we'll only see Feral if we don't see Resto Druid.
Right.
Or Guardian, because Guardian's looking pretty good too now. So
I think we'll see a lot of Prot Warrior though in season 1, just because they seem like they just don't take damage and they do a fuckload of damage.
Right. I mean, Guardian's the same boat too. Just,
yeah. Where do you want your battle res to come from? Your tank or your healer or feral is basically your decision that you're making. You're gonna grab one and then you'll have Mark of the Wild and then you'll be good. Yeah, right.
So like with Guardian and Resto both being big on the list of like their respective roles, if you have one of those, that probably puts feral way down because you already have Mark of the Wild. So
right, you won't want to bring a second druid.
Yeah.
What do you think about the affix? The seasonal affix. It's okay.
It's all right. Yeah.
I think it's
they made
cool.
some changes to it, and it's good enough. I think it's like super interesting, but it'll be all right.
I think the 30% is a lot, personally.
Oh, it is. It is, but just the way it's like globally timed. There's not much that's in your control with it, so we'll see how it ends up playing out. What it will do, I think, is like facilitate like really big opening pools in dungeons, like where they're possible. It's gonna proc on that your first pull.
Yeah, what I think, because it's on a minute timer, right?
Yeah, I think minute global timer.
So I think what is gonna make that super weird is like, okay, you have the route for a 24 down because of where the minute timers line up. Well, now you do a 25, and because those mobs and those packs take slightly longer, your routing is going to have to be completely different, key to key, level to level, because
you're not going to be able to route around it for that reason.
Right.
You go up level and the timings shift.
Yep.
So you're never going to be able to route around it besides, first pull.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll be able to like hold cooldowns until you get that proc on a boss fight or something too.
Well,
and it's not like you can sit there and wait around to pull because it's like
you're on the timer,
global combat timer. So you can't just wait around because it's not, the timer stopped when you're out of combat.
Well, it's just gonna feel super shitty, like to get it at the end of a small pull, where you can't take advantage. And it does cater to bigger burstier classes, obviously, because you can just hold your cooldowns to try to line up with the thundering on those big pulls. I know there's been some talk and complaints about how it just plays into these burstier classes even more so than.
It also depends, because I think it like something like that plays really good into like Demon Hunter, because their cooldowns are just do more damage. So you
Yeah.
don't even need to really like hold cooldowns. You're just kind of like doing big damage all the time. So you just, no matter when it procs, you just have 30% more damage.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely good.
It's gonna like lean into classes like that where they're not as like cooldown centric, and they're gonna fucking love it.
I think too, you're gonna see people get really mad when somebody clears the buff, like when you're in your cooldown and you're like pumping, and then somebody like accidentally runs over you, like while they're trying to do mechanics, and then you just lose 30% damage in your cooldown window, and that's gonna just feel awful. So we'll see. I think it's cool. I think it is a little strong. I think I would have maybe liked to see them rein in the 30% a little bit. Maybe like a 15 or a 20, so it didn't feel as bad if somebody.
Well, it was 15, and then it was just not very impactful. That's why they buffed it to 30.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna go live that way, so we'll just have to deal with it and play around it as much as we can.
I do think that it's better at 30 because it actually makes you care about trying to like maximize it.
Yeah.
Before it was just basically a non-affix. At 15% damage, like, yeah, it's a lot, but it's not enough for you to actually play around or care about.
I think what was throwing me off about the 30 is like watching some of these beta keys and seeing demon hunters pop off for like 600k on a pull. Meta in the thundering window with a massive pull, and then they just hit 600k. And I think that was probably what's kind of setting my brain into that like it's way too strong mode, because that's those numbers get kind of ridiculous when you're pushing 1,000,000 DPS or will be pushing 1,000,000 DPS.
That's what you want to do, though. That's what's going to separate the best from the worst.
True.
Being able to maximize that window and get as much done as you can within it. So
well, also bigger number, better person, as we know. So you got to do more damage to be a better person. So what do you, we've kind of touched on this in past episodes, but what do you think of the season 1 Mythic Plus pool?
I'm more excited about it now just because it's going to be Mythic Plus, and I mean, I like the dungeons that are in the pool except for Court of Stars. I hate that people like that dungeon. I think it's a garbage dungeon. I hate it, dude. It's so dumb.
I just
fucking dungeon.
I just hate that you need an add-on to do the disguise part.
Well, they still haven't made any big enough changes to the way professions work in there, which is they need to just unlock it somehow, because there's no, especially with like the profession revamp.
Yeah.
If you care about high-end Mythic Plus and getting like a high-timed Court of Stars, you're going to care about what professions you have, what buffs you're getting.
Right.
You don't really have a choice to like be the profession you want if you have to be the person in the group that goes engineering for this thing or whatever.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That part of the dungeon sucks too. Like making the dudes come over so that you can kill them and then do the boss after. I was never a big fan of Court of Stars. I liked the other one better. That had the like different routing based on what doors were locked and unlocked, that I'm blanking on the name of that dungeon. Archway. I liked Archway better. I don't like Archway a lot better than Court of Stars personally, besides the like opening slime pull, but other than that, it was fine.
Archway was just long. I think that was a 5-boss dungeon. It was like a 50-minute timer.
But yeah, Court of Stars is kind of poopy.
To Halls of Valor, and I'm really excited about that one because that's a really good dungeon. It was just really dangerous, but they've done a really good job like pre-tuning that, so that kind of eases my mind about like my shit before. I think their testing process worked really well for this one.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have a pretty decent time in these dungeons. So my biggest worry was like having this shit not tuned well from patch to patch to patch, and having to deal with a shit show at the beginning of every season for the first week or two. But
Yeah.
I think we're looking good for season 1. I'm still kind of worried about that going forward, like for season 2, 3, whatever, new dungeon pools that we haven't seen in Mythic Plus or haven't been tuned for Mythic Plus well enough, because they're not going to get the same testing that they have for all this shit.
Right. Yeah. The season 1 dungeons have been tested and tested and tested because everybody wanted to play beta. And now not as many people are going to be on PTR to test. So they're not going to get the same amount of data. But maybe they'll learn lessons. You know, we'll drink the hopium here, and maybe they'll learn some lessons from this tuning and be able to apply that to like the other old dungeons coming in. So yeah, I think
maybe
Mythic Plus
be
would
at
be
a
good.
point in the season 2 when like maybe we'll go do some testing.
Yeah,
Like our level 5 man go do some testing too, you know.
that'd be cool. So yeah, same for me for Mythic Plus, same goals kind of as season 4. Like I want to push. I'd like to do some, you know, obviously with the tuning changes and making the keys harder. Like realm first 20 is definitely in my sights. Like that's something that I definitely want to do. Spooky wants to be on the podcast, says he'll bring the mustache back. We can probably get Spooky as a guest on one of the episodes here going forward as we try to be a little bit more consistent with it.
Yeah, definitely.
For once Dragonflight launches. But yeah, same goals. I want that realm first 20 and you know, hoping to finish in the mid 2000s for season 1 or low to mid 2000s. Depending on what keys, like 21, 22 maybe for season 1. We'll have to see how gearing is, and but
I think by end of season, you know, we could push back to where we are.
Yeah,
I think hoping. Like straight up tuning wise, like where we were at, like a couple 24s under our belt, I mean, we should be able to, with the same effort, be at like 22s.
Yeah,
and then not to mention getting to that point where we're doing 22s. By that time, we'll have more gear, like differentially than we have now. So hopefully that pushes us.
Yeah,
a level or 2.
Is that the Mr. Might Thunder Fury in our chat? Holy shit.
Oh, shit.
What's up, Mr. Thunder Fury?
Exam, first time caller here.
I'm also, you know, it's going to be good to see everybody back for season 1. You know, like our raid sheet's got like 28 people on it right now. And I'm hoping that, you know, either people watching us or us talking about, you know, pushing higher end keys that maybe we can get, you know, some more interest in other more people.
Interest. Yeah, definitely.
Who want to do man. Groups.
Like, you know, for a long time, I just sat back, you know, did my own thing. Didn't really care to push higher than that. But once that was like given to me and I'm like, okay, get the taste for it. Fuck, it's a whole nother game. And it's so fucking fun.
Yep.
It is a really good time. It's a whole different game.
Yeah.
Not the same game at all.
Wild. So yeah, this is a call to the people of Might who we play with. Let's do some high-end Mythic Plus. Let's get some more more people who are wanting to do that, and we will help facilitate. I will help facilitate as much as possible. If people have questions or kind of like where do you need to start type stuff for pushing higher end keys. I think the last thing for Dragonflight, and I don't know if either of us are really the best people to talk about this, but the profession system changes. I didn't really interact with it much on beta. Here's my main thoughts. I think this will fill a little bit of that gap that we talked about for more casual players on giving them something to do in the world on like the day-to-day what am I logging in to do? If I don't have to interact with systems and grind AP or grind anima or whatever, well, I can do some profession stuff because, you know, that's just fun.
Especially coupled with dragon riding, like I might even actually continue the profession grind longer than I always do in a new expansion, because dragon riding's fun, you know. So like, you know, maybe that makes me actually look forward to going around looking for mining nodes
Right.
around the continent, you know, because I get to dragon ride around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
but like I personally, like, I'll probably go mining skinning or some shit to start, because I'm not super into professions usually. But I mean, once we get going, maybe it actually catches my eye, and that could be something that I do in my off time that I start enjoying. And I think that's what is really going to open it up for everybody, is just having the time, not feeling bad for going to do these other chores, and you get to just sit around and mess with the professions.
Right. Well, I think that's, you know, one of the big things that I'm excited about, and kind of just interacting again with the core systems of the game. And I think we haven't been able to call professions a core system in a long time. Because they've either not been relevant or they felt like a chore, not having enough time to interact with them outside of like, I need to just, you know, farm up enough fucking herbs to make my flasks for raid, you know? And that's kind of been like my interaction with professions for a while. So yeah, I think that's really it for kind of like Shadowlands send off into Dragonflight. We kind of talked about like what casual players are going to do and player mentality shift. The only one last thing I wanted to talk about would be kind of the recent interviews that Preach has done. I haven't watched everything that he did because he put out a lot of content. And then the most recent Max interview with Morgan Day. I thought there was some really insightful stuff in both of those, specifically in the Preach stuff that I did get to watch. The modular design that they talked about, starting with Legion and going all the way through Shadowlands, where the feedback that they were getting early in Legion was that like AP was good and people were enjoying the system. So they started doing BFA with those thoughts in mind. And by the time we got to the end of Legion, that like they were already 2 years of development into BFA at that point.
Yeah, and it's like just hard to come back on that, and then they just hold firm, like, no, this is what people like.
Yeah.
Like, no, we don't.
You kept waiting for the so what more than anything. Yeah, there was a lot of filler in the Preach interviews, but I think there were some good takeaways. Specifically that was kind of probably the biggest one. Is just they were kind of stuck in this like cycle of we've already started developing and making decisions on, you know, kind of the feedback that we got and the systems that we had made, and we were going to take pieces of that and carry it over from expansion to expansion. And then when it turned out that people didn't like that stuff, well, we're already pot committed. You know, same thing with like Covenants. There was all this feedback about, you know, how bad it felt to switch, and they doubled down on the meaningful choice thing and, you know, just to walk it back later, which ended up being the right decision. But I kind of understand now more why they were stuck in those positions.
There's certain things that I'm glad they're getting away from, because something that like still pisses me off about them finally unlocking the Covenant stuff,
Yeah.
is they were still adamant that they made the right decision keeping it locked for the first bit. Like, no, the game is literally 4 times more fun now.
Yep.
That you unlock this shit. Literally 4 times more. You know why? Because I have 4 times more shit to do. This is fun. This is cool. Like,
yeah.
God damn it.
Yep. I feel that, and I'm with you.
But
I
they
think,
stuck to their guns even then. Even like at the beginning of the philosophy shift, it's like, yeah, but we still think that was a good idea. No, it's not, and that's up until now actually playing Dragonflight. That's why I was still iffy on the philosophy shift if it was actually true or not, because they were just still stuck to their guns that they were making right decisions
yeah,
up to that point. It's like, no,
I
kind of a
think
spit in the face.
a little bit. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think their decision though to kind of go back to the drawing board and what makes WoW fun, and I think
Hmm.
they learned a lot of lessons from Classic and bringing that back and what people liked from Classic. And we want to feel just as powerful going into the next expansion as we did prior
Right.
to the expansion, the previous expansion. So losing everything to start over doesn't make us feel very heroic. It's also
Hmm.
super frustrating to just re-grind a new system after we just got done grinding a system, especially
Yeah,
one that's
that's why I think
super alt unfriendly.
this is more evergreen for that purpose too.
Yep.
Like the just the talent systems.
Yep.
Like we are super strong going into Dragonflight, which is going to be fucking sweet.
Yeah. And I think for me, I just want to interact with the game. Like, I don't want to have to power up my character in other ways that aren't gear related. I don't,
Right.
it just feels super bad. Like, I know how to play these classes. Why do I have to, like, we've literally killed gods. Why do we have to, like, fill up a covenant sanctum to get a perk that makes us stronger?
Right.
So even from like a lore perspective, it feels really shitty.
Yeah. And so like my biggest point about before, like when they unlocked the covenants and how it was still like a spit in the face with like the philosophy shift and still being very distrustful, that's mostly to combat like Risen talking in Discord. That's pretty much that's how I felt like after 915, where like I was still no, I still don't trust them. I still don't trust them. But like I've been playing that entire time. I've been keeping up with the betas and everything since then. So
Yeah.
it's like that has lifted from me now. Um, which is why I can see like people still feeling that way, but just you know, coming from me at least, I have been around since then all the way through it. Uh, they definitely made huge shifts, and
Yeah.
it's my veil has lifted, and I'm a little bit more hopeful going forward.
Oh, and I think there was some good stuff in the Morgan Day interviews that both Wowhead did and then Max followed up and did.
I
Um,
think I've only seen the Max one. I don't think I've seen any of the Preach stuff either.
the Preach put out like 4 videos, like, and
Yeah, I haven't
they
actually
are long.
watched any of it. So,
Um, I'm not the biggest Preach fan, but I think I thought they were well done. It felt more like a documentary,
right.
up
I
kind of
did
about
watch.
Blizzard.
I watched his like take on it right when he got back, but that was before he put out any of the actual content from the trip. So as far as like anything from the trip, I haven't seen, but I did see his
Yeah. Um,
like recap and his thoughts on what he took for. It was generally positive, and I've always been a huge Preach fan. So
yeah. Yeah, he was definitely positive. It was almost like a faith renewed in
right,
the direction of the game and Blizzard type conversation that he had and with his stream. And then
right,
I got that same vibe from the videos. But yeah, from the Morgan Day interview with like Max, and it, the one thing that I think we miss sometimes is like these guys are like passionate about WoW and the game,
yeah,
and they do actually care, even though it sometimes feels like they're not listening. But he went as far as to like address some of the specific problems that were being brought up with like having to take solar beam in the middle of the druid tree and being a 5 to 10% DPS loss, and you know Morgan being like, well, that's definitely something that we need to address. And I think just the attitude that they're listening and the ability that they've given themselves with the talent trees to make smaller tuning adjustments, I think is really what has me excited for like this X pack and then using this system forward, where we're probably just going to get more talents added as we level, I would assume. I don't know what your thoughts are, because they haven't really said anything yet.
Well, whether that means, shit gets shifted around to where, you still are kind of locked out of certain combinations. Say current capstones. If a current capstone is stronger than something they're going to add, they just move it down. That's so they just add things to the middle.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be like it was with like Classic into Burning Crusade into Wrath, where it's just shit is getting added to the bottom. Like there can just be shifts in the middle and playstyle changes. It doesn't all need to be like new abilities and buttons. So I think the way they have the tree outlined with the two sides plays very well in like the evergreen nature and being able to just shift things around.
Do you think they'll ever give us a way to make the tree more powerful, whether it be, a tier set that makes specific nodes stronger, or, when we talked about not a lot of systems patch to patch because there isn't a new system, but maybe like enhanced talent tree perks that we get?
I don't know about that, just because this is supposed to be like very baseline part of your character. I don't see them adding anything that can be taken away.
Yeah.
Like from that system specifically. So if they add, like talent perks or something, that would be something that they'd have to carry forward. If it's any kind of like borrowed power system, it just doesn't belong interacting with that. Just because like this is part of our base character.
I could see them doing tier sets that interact, just because tier sets have always been borrowed power. It used to be our only source of borrowed power. Where just for this raid, this build is going to be stronger with your tier set. I mean, that's not really anything that's different than the past. Right. So I could definitely see them doing that. To Drew's comment, I think that's a good thing to maybe talk about, is that for people who didn't spend any time on beta and who are very used to the level, 3 selection talent trees that we had in the past, that this could be a little overwhelming to log in.
It definitely is at first, yeah.
Yeah.
Because especially if you go look at a build from like Icy Veins, Wowhead, whatever, you can fill it out, but it's just, I think the biggest overwhelming part is mousing over each individual node, knowing exactly what it does to make your own informed decision on how you want to play the class.
Yeah.
Which takes time, like literally reading through, seeing what connections. You have to kind of fill it out too as you're going, because you can't just look at it blank and like just know in your mind exactly what all you'll be able to get without actually filling it out and knowing how many points you're going to have left to move around and grab stuff. So
oh no, we've got ads.
It's just a little overwhelming at first.
I'm sorry, I can't control the ads because I don't have enough people watching where I get that fine-tuned control. They just kind of roll on their own.
Yeah.
I'll wait a couple. Let me actually bring it up and I'll see when the ad is going to be done.
Heal. All right, we're back.
I think we're back. So I think my biggest recommendation, Drew, for the talent tree things is look through Icy Veins and Wowhead, start with like the recommended that they've got, read through and see why that's good, and like the reasoning that they're giving, and read through it, and then from there start making changes to fit your play style and what you want to do, because that makes it like way less overwhelming to know that you've got like a baseline build that's gonna work for you. Oh gee, thank you for the resub, appreciate that. Now you don't have to worry about the ads. But yeah, that's what I would do, and that's what I did with Evoker. And like Monk, I had messed around with more on the beta, so I had already kind of had like a tree that I wanted to use. Oh hey, thank you for gifting Nyrix. You should save those for tomorrow so you can get the pet. And thank you for gifting Drew as well. But yeah, that's what I did, was just did a preheats guide and have made some changes to what I feel plays a little bit better for Dragon. And I think I would recommend everybody do that to start.
And I think especially now, people are just, everybody is so worried about like the best path, the best trees, the best setup. And you just have to remember at the level that we're playing, like until we really get to the top end of what we're trying to push, 5% isn't a lot. Like you're gonna gain more than 5% just being better, like playing whatever setup you have to its fullest potential.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, play what you like, mess around with the trees, see what feels good. If you feel like, ooh, this really sucks missing this ability, can drop some shit to get it, you know?
Yep.
It's, you have so much, and it can be overwhelming, like having that much choice, but hey, it's a lot of choice. It can be really cool. So,
well, I mean, just talking about Dragon, like
just us playing together the other day, like, and then going into raid, just talking about different builds that we're running, even though it's like one node different, and then
yep.
seeing how it lines up on the meters at the end of a dungeon, that was super cool, you
Yep.
know. And it was like it becomes very specific, like conversations that you can have with a counterpart of yours. So like me and Rain both playing dragons, like our conversations can be so much more specific about like, oh, your pyre's doing more damage because of this talent, but like not enough more damage than like this talent is doing for me, you know. So it's pretty cool.
I think that's going to add
Like,
a huge social aspect to it.
yeah,
Like within guild, maybe not like on a global
yeah, maybe not
level.
overall, but yeah, like a person to person, just, you know, like talking with a counterpart of yours that's
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, me and
playing
my buddy
similar.
are both playing Dragon, or we're, both playing Monk, and we can have like a very specific conversation about a couple nodes. What are you playing, Nyrix? Aren't you playing Resto Shaman?
Rest of them, yeah.
Well, Hacked will be able to help you. He'll have those conversations with you, because it won't be long until he's back on his true love. The Shaman simp train has to keep rolling. But yeah, I think that part hasn't really been talked about a lot, is just, we can have very specific conversations about one or two talent points and how much it matters to what you're trying to do and what feels good. Hey, I found this build, I really like it, it feels good. Because I remember when you had said, you were playing Iridescence when we first started the night, and by the end of the night you're like, fuck Iridescence. Like,
Yeah,
this other build, this other build feels way better. And that was just from us talking about, Dragon stuff for, the couple hour that we were doing some Mythic Plus and then getting into raid. So I think stuff like that's going to be really cool. One of the other things that I'm kind of excited for. A lot of builds at 70, they're really focused on a few specific capstones. Rest is figuring out what you want to possibly sacrifice. Yeah. And that, I think a lot of that happens too in like the class tree, where, you need to drop some defensive or whatever to get a utility for a specific fight or a specific dungeon. And I think that's cool. I'm a big fan of that. I don't know how you feel about that, Hacked, or what the chat feels about that. I think that's awesome, personally.
Well, and even if like a class tree, like for certain classes, isn't like in a perfect state, just imagine what it would be like with just one tree, and having to make all those decisions when they are like really pinning up against your like offensive play style and output. stuff,
Yeah.
throughput stuff.
Yep.
So it's like, I think it's the perfect way to attack it. I love the idea. I think it's playing out super well. Like, there's always going to be outliers and everything. Not everything works out perfectly, but
Yeah.
I
I
think
think,
so far they've done a good job, like, hitting those major pain points. They're not there yet, and here it is coming out tomorrow, but I'm less worried about it than I was like a month ago.
yeah, it's a brand new system. And we've talked about it being, a new era for WoW. There's going to be bumps in the road, and there's going to be things that they're going to have to change. I'm just hoping that they have gotten over the like ego of knowing best or whatnot, and
Right.
they listen to what we're saying and what people who actually have a voice, to Blizzard are saying, that this stuff needs to be addressed, and you have the tools to address it now, and you're not locked into
Well,
systems.
and you still kind of like have to feel bad for them on certain things because like you're gonna get different feedback and you don't know which way to take it, right? Like for Shadow Priest,
Mm-hmm.
dude, that fucking beta forum is lit the fuck up.
Yeah.
But it's like I honestly mostly enjoy Shadow Priest with what it is, and like some of the suggestions that you get on there, it's like, no, dude, that would be terrible. That would ruin that whole fucking spec for me. And like, while this isn't me, but it's like that's what they're trying to combat is like, I fucking love Shadow Priest in its current iteration. There's a couple things that could shift around to like really nail it in, but like there's some suggestions that I would just hate, and I mean, at the end of the day, that would just make me not play it, which is fine. Not every class is designed for me,
Yeah.
so it makes
Well, I think
sense. But
I think a lot of that falls into the camp of like the people who are Shadow Priest mains.
right,
They're probably the ones most upset because they don't want any changes to what they're used to or what they feel is best. For people like us who have problems and want to play everything and try to fit in too many alts and not enough time type stuff, like I think Shadow Priest feels really cool. I think it's a different take. I like the different builds. Like Mind Spike being just cracked is awesome. And I like that play style. I think it's fun. My favorite iteration of Shadow Priest though isn't even this iteration. It was the Legion Infinite Insanity, or trying to keep yourself in void form as long as
so good.
possible. That was
Yeah,
my favorite iteration.
That is the most fun I've ever had in this game ever, from like gameplay style at least, was like Tomb of Sargeras, Shadow Priest.
Yeah.
So good.
It's why I think like breath build for DK is a lot of fun, because it's about optimizing your uptime on breath. So like that's not an option, but I think that the options that they've given us are interesting. I think thematically, just being able to summon a thing from beyond is really cool with Shadow Priest. So like I think there's a lot of positives. I think too a lot of it stems from like people want their class to be like the outlier, just dick down everything class.
Right. Yeah.
You can be brought to every
like,
piece of content.
My biggest point with that though is like it's hard to thumb through all of that feedback because you're getting positive feedback and then you're getting the opposite negative feedback. Where it's like, oh, I like this one thing. I fucking hate this one thing.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you do with that? But then even past that, it's hard to like really find all of the just genuine, really good feedback, or just things that they are still like doubling down on and just I know best type mentality, like priests being the only healing class without any kind of kick or interrupt.
Yeah.
The only one. They don't have a knockback, they don't have a kick, like they kind of got gutted utility wise. All they have is PI. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like so
That definitely
there is
feels
feedback
shitty.
like that, and it's like that community has gotten hit with a little bit of like we know best, or they just or nothing at all. So I mean, like there's still issues
Right.
coming from that aspect of development, but hopefully that's just a bump in the road.
I can't believe Holy and Disc are the two specs that don't have an interrupt. That sucks. Yeah, I mean, I think they should. I like I think they're trying to give Priest its own identity by not making it have a kick. Like, it's the pure healing class type identity, but it just
That's
means
not why they're doing it. They just
no.
won't give them a kick because it makes... They're the only class in the game that's like really getting kind of hit hard in PvE based on how they will perform in PvP. Because if you give Priest a kick, they're fucking OP as shit because Rogue Mage Priest is always already like dicks everything down as far as like utility monsters go.
Yeah, I just like
That is
couldn't
literally the reason they're not getting a kick.
couldn't you just flag the talent to like not
Right.
be active in PvP?
Exactly. Right.
Because like I feel like you're just not gonna want to bring a Priest to Mythic Plus because like you can just get an extra kick on every other healer. And like we know how important kicks are in Mythic Plus. Like it doesn't really hurt them for raid.
Dragon's kick is still like, if you have you're never gonna have a dragon for the kick. Like you could bring a priest instead of a dragon. Like 40-second kick is not gonna do anything, but like
That's still an extra backup kick.
Out. Yeah, but like Shaman still stands out as like their one saving grace is the 12-second kick because it's the best interrupt in the game.
It's the best interrupt in the game for sure. But yeah. I'm just saying, like having a backup kick, like having that fifth kick can make a difference, especially as we've seen. There's some very heavy interrupt and kick heavy pulls that are in these dungeons where like if you don't kick stuff, it fucks on you.
And I think before too, it was okay because they still at least had stops. So it's like you still have the fear, which is, it's a stop, but it's not great. It's like one of the worst, but at least they have something. But then they also had Shining Force as a stop, and that's gone.
Yep.
You know, it's like they really got gutted on the utility, and they just don't bring a whole lot of control.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some MCable stuff, and they'll be needed for that, but in general, yeah, and even with like the dragon thing, like a lot of the time you're gonna path through kick naturally, even on healer for the 2% extra damage and the fire breath. Like you're gonna want that as even as a healer. So like it's an optional talent, like it is on basically every other class, but like specifically for dragon, like you're gonna be pathing through it a lot of the time. So it's not even like the other healing classes have like this unoptimal path to pick up the kick.
Right. Yeah. Like for, I think Druid,
Druid
get kind of locked
sucks.
into cat weaving.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have to go down to Skull Bash.
Yeah. If you want the kick, then you have to be cat weaving. Whereas like you don't really have the option to have the kick if you want to do like Moonkin stuff for your damage.
Yeah. Mind Soothe could be really useful.
Pally is not too bad to get their kick. I don't know about Monk. Monk makes the most sense to have the kick, so I'm glad. Yeah, Mind Soothe could be huge for priests, and that's like super niche utility. But I still think like obviously the stops, some kind of stop bigger.
Yeah. Let's see. Be quiet, Rathian. Where is the kick? Yeah, you got to go down the right, like all the way right side on Pally. Yeah, my computer did not like loading. My stream did not like loading that character in for some reason.
But that's not bad because you kind of want the judgment shit anyway.
Yeah, and you don't have to go deep. You know, you just have to go to the first break point to pick up the kick.
This is actually, I'm almost done with this, but just as far as like listening to feedback, this is like a really good example of that is the fixes that they just made to Dusk and Dawn in the Pally tree for like Holy and Pro specifically at least, which is like specific feedback that I saw in the beta forums about like, hey, this is really hard. It's left side capstone.
I got it. Yeah, I found it.
Yeah. But
good old search function.
It lasts longer and it's nerfed a little bit now just because it was so, it only lasted for like 10 seconds. So it was like really hard to play it and keep it up while also making other decisions with your holy power. But
Yeah.
now, like, they made the buffs last 20 seconds now, so that it's easier to maintain and shift back and forth. And then they also nerfed it a little bit, so it doesn't feel as like you have to play this, because it's just so much better than everything. So it's like they have those tools with these talent trees to really make little changes like that, and
Yep.
do cool things and listen to feedback.
Even though Ret still sucks, but we'll see.
No, it doesn't.
No?
It doesn't. It slaps damage. People are just worried about the tree. They just don't like the tree.
Gotcha.
So, like, design-wise and some of the stuff they have to do in their talent tree is meh, but
Gotcha.
they're slapping.
All right, well, if Chloro's watching, you're safe to play Ret. Hack said you're okay.
I mean, they're not the best. They're doing decent enough on numbers.
Yeah. I've always liked a good Ret Pally. All right. Playing Pally isn't Chloro's problem. Easy, Bay. Easy.
I think he's playing Ellie anyway.
I think he is playing Ellie. Yeah. Well, this was our launch extravaganza, kind of talking all things WoW and Dragonflight. So we're both really pumped, fully just drinking the hopium that the new expansion is good. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about, Hack, before we sign off here?
Nope, I think everything's looking good, man. I'm getting antsy.
I know. We are 23 hours, or no, we are 24 and a half hours away.
Yeah, I've got my dragon's bags cleared. Got all the, consumables ready to go.
Oh, yeah. So what are you playing first?
Dragon.
You are playing Dragon?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'm going to...
I'm actually really excited to play, like, even some Devastation. Just through dungeons when it's needed. In raid, probably, because I don't think we'll need healers.
Yeah, I put myself down for Dev for raid, just because I've been really loving playing Dragon. But I'll have my Monk and my Dragon both ready to go. And just play whatever is best for us in Mythic Plus, and then whatever role we need to fill in raid. But yeah, I think I'm going to do my Dragon first and then do my Monk after.
Hell yeah. Yeah, still, I don't know what I'm doing second yet. No, I don't know if it's going to be Priest or, I think I might just try to level all the healers at some point.
Yeah.
So I don't know which I want to do second.
Well, I'm sure you'll end up having everything like me at the end.
All right.
All right. Well, for tomorrow, I did get accepted into the WoW support a streamer thing. So you can get your Ichabod pet here tomorrow if you gift 2 subs. And then you can also get the Feldrake mount if you watch for 4 hours. So you'll be able to get both of those just through the drops command. Make sure your Battle.net account is all linked and all that stuff. So hopefully I will see y'all tomorrow. I think I'm going to hop on a little bit before the expansion goes live just to hang out and chat, and we'll see what everybody's up to. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Cheat, thanks for gifting those subs, even though you're a day early. Oh, Drew, while you're here, what are you do? Are you not raiding with us? Why did you take yourself off the sheet? Answer me right now. I demand an answer.
Tanking.
He's not tanking. I know
tanking.
that.
Yeah, he wants to focus on arena, but
there are other plans, such as I want to know. Now the suspense is going to kill me. Well, I'll miss you in raid if you're not raiding with us. RBG team. Oh, hell yeah. That'll be fun as fuck. All right. Well, thanks everybody again. And we will see y'all tomorrow. and I will actually try to get this up on YouTube in a actual time before the expansion goes live. So tonight into tomorrow. But yeah, I will catch you all tomorrow. And thanks again, Hacked, for joining me.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Peace out.